Give it a second there. Perfect. Welcome, everyone. My name is Jason. I am the founder and managing director of Thunder.vc. Thanks for joining us today. Today we have Craig joining us from Velocity Growth, here to kind of talk us through how to leverage your existing resources to crack the code on traction, to raise capital by leveraging conversion rate optimization, something that I'm personally very passionate about and been using in my career for the last 15 years or so to kind of optimize my ad spend and marketing and growth goals and aspirations. So the plan for today, a couple things. One, Craig's going to do an introduction on himself and Velocity Growth and how they could be potentially useful to founders here that are joining us. Then we're going to go into the material. He's got a particular amount of content that he wants to go through that we both think will be of extreme value to those that are attending. You are welcome to ask questions at any point during the broadcast. You can chat, you can kind of raise your hand. The raise hand feature is just down in the bottom in the middle, the little hand icon, to kind of come in and pop in with a question. We welcome questions during and or after. So the goal is about 25 to 30 or so minutes of content and leaving plenty of room and flexibility for Q&A. So if you have any specific questions related to the material or your own situation, we're happy to answer those questions. And towards the end, we'll wrap up with some call to actions and some opportunities for you. But looking forward to Craig kicking things off. And welcome, everyone.
Hey, thanks so much, Jason. And I really appreciate the invite. And I know it's been a crazy few days in the markets and everything going on. So I especially appreciate everybody showing up today and everybody that's watching on demand. I'll just give you a really quick rundown of who I am and what my company does, and then we'll get right into the content. And as Jason mentioned, if you've got questions, raise your hand, and this can be very collaborative. And if not, happy to take questions at the end. But my name is Craig Zingerline. I'm the current CEO and founder of a company called Velocity Growth. And what we do is we help startups build out go-to-market strategies and execute on those go-to-market strategies through a concept that we call holistic growth. I came up with this concept for this company after having literally hundreds of conversations with founders about all the things that they were struggling with growth. And interestingly enough, I've been in the industry for a long time myself. I've got about 20 years in entrepreneurship. I've founded or co-founded about a half a dozen companies. I'm a small check investor, a longtime advisor to a bunch of different companies, and try to do a lot of mentorship. And one of the themes that I think is especially important in a market like what we're in right now is doing more with less, which is why Jason and I kind of came up with the theme of this conversation today, which I'm kind of stealing the masterclass pitch here, the CRO masterclass, cracking the code on traction to raise capital by leveraging conversion rate optimization. But really, this is going to hopefully enable you to find some key areas within your own websites and within your own products where there's room for improvement. Velocity Growth does a bit of everything in terms of helping customers of ours crack the code. But I'm going to walk through some fairly tactical examples, and I'll give you some frameworks and strategies that we use. And again, we're just going to dive in. But if you've got questions, let's just use the raise hand button. So our agenda for today, the things that I want to cover, I'm going to talk through how to actually speak to your target audience. And this is really, really, really critical because the messaging and positioning of everything that we do, whether it's raising capital or trying to drive revenue, is one of the most foundational, fundamental things that we can focus on. And generally, there's a lot of room for improvement. I'm going to look at some of the technical and performance aspects to consider when we're thinking about conversion rate optimization. We'll look at how to choose what conversion goal to focus on. So how do you actually drive the conversion that you're looking for your business from the audience that you're able to capture on your website or in your product? We'll talk a little bit about triggers and user psychology, and then I've got a few other things to share at the end. So that's our outline. We're going to dive right in. So who here, raise your hand if you do content production for your own company? I mean, I do. Yeah, everybody's hand's going up, right? So I would say that one of the fastest ways to increase the efficacy of your offer is to write like a human and speak to your target audience in a way that makes you sound like an expert, shows that you're credible, and makes them feel really, really comfortable with you. And again, in a down market, it's absolutely critical that you do this. Going a level deeper, probably the biggest mistake that I see founders make with their own websites, and I've certainly been in this bucket myself. So you currently go to my own website, there's a whole bucket list of things that I need to do to improve it. And those are just kind of sitting there in the backlog. The number one issue that I generally see, though, is that founders are trying to have their website do everything for everybody. Like, we're so excited about this amazing product or solution that we've put out into the wild that we forget that the human on the other end is likely looking at a very specific problem that they have that they're looking for a solution for almost 100% of the time, which means that you really need to have some kind of catch-all so that you can adequately filter those users by persona and by problem solution into the right path. But once you understand who they are, you're speaking one-on-one to them. It's almost like if you go into a cafe and you're like, hey, I'm Craig, I do marketing. Everyone's going to kind of look at you. And there might be a couple people that are like, hey, I need marketing. I'm going to awkwardly go walk over and approach Craig. But if I see you and I'm like, I come up to you and I say, hey, I'm Craig, and I build landing pages for high performing startup founders. Are you a startup founder? And you say yes. Well, now we can have a whole conversation about the very specific thing that I can offer you and the value that you can receive and the benefit that you get as a result. Probably not the best analogy, but I had to come up with something. So there's two buckets. There's a broad page strategy. And so for general pages, think of like your website homepage, okay? The main experience that the user sees. You do have to speak to probably multiple personas, so you can go a little bit wider. What you need to do on these types of pages is nail the most common value points for them, and then make it easy for them to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into your website so that you can speak to them one-on-one. The second thing that you need to consider doing right out of the gates is develop what I'll call a deep page strategy. And when we're thinking about landing pages or content pages, things that are on your website that are not your homepage, for example, that really should be moving into a single persona view if you're looking at conversion rate optimization. So the question to ask yourself is, with each and every piece of messaging and positioning and page that you're putting in front of people, is what am I solving for this person? And there's really no room for kind of high level fluffy, like, this is Bob. Bob is 29. Bob works in tech. He's got 2 dogs, likes to run, and wears an Apple Watch. Because yes, that's persona development, but that's not real. Nobody actually sells to that person, right? And so when I see a lot of research being done, I love customer research, by the way, but it's not this hypothetical scenario that you're inventing out of thin air. The user research has to come from real customer discovery. And a lot of founders are afraid to actually ask the questions of their audience and users. Hey, what pain point do I or will I solve for you? And that's the key, is to have those conversations. And they're not always fun. They can be difficult because you may disprove a hypothesis that you had. And oftentimes, frankly, that's what will keep you in business. In fact, with Velocity Growth, we've pivoted. We did a hard pivot in year 2 of our existence, a complete hard pivot after doing a bunch of research, even after having paying customers. So this is not a rare thing to have to do. Okay. So here are some key questions that I like to think about when I'm building content and then building pages that I'm going to put in front of other human beings. Who is this person that you're talking to? Where do they work? What pain point exactly does my product solve for them? What is their job title and where do they hang out? So we do a lot of marketing for a lot of different clients. And top of funnel marketing is very different than conversion rate optimization marketing. With conversion rate optimization marketing, you're trying to convert somebody who's already landed on your page. With top of funnel marketing, you're just trying to drive traffic. It's incredibly hard to find a signal if you don't understand right down to the job title level who your buyer is. And so we do a lot of work with cold email as a channel, for example. When I'm advising companies on cold email strategy, I say, for you to build a list of cold email, you literally have to tell me what the job title and company size and sector is of that person that you're going after so that you can craft the right messaging for them. Because the messaging that you're going to put in front of a CMO of 1,000 to 5,000 person company is not going to resonate the same way as the message and copy that you're going to put in front of, and the offer that you're going to put in front of the CMO of a 50-person company or the founder of a 14-person company, which is kind of where we're at size-wise. Okay. So these nuances, while they don't feel that big, they're huge. And so what you end up with is a set of buckets that are all grouped together by these different characteristics that you have to build your offer and positioning against. Okay. We're going to keep moving. So here's an example of the categorization of a broad page. And this is Figma, and I'll use some examples from Figma. Why did I pick Figma? Well, they got bought for $20 billion. So they did a few things right? In an insanely competitive space. I mean, they were competing with Adobe, with Miro, with all of the platforms that had come before them. There's dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens. What does this page do? This is their homepage. Notice their branding. They've got this kind of yellowish mark here. They've got their nice logo. Get started. I see it twice above the fold. I see the actual product, and it tells me what they do. So aspirationally, they say nothing great is made alone with a focus on made. Is that true? I mean, yeah, it kind of is true. So they've got some user psychology at play there. So that's their benefit statement. That's effectively their hook. And then a little bit more tactically, Figma connects everyone in the design process so teams can deliver better products faster. Now, this isn't saying Figma is a great tool for product managers to use. It's very, very, very broad. However, they let you get in to the weeds by looking at their primary navigation. And as you scroll this page, they've got different use cases based on those personas that they're going after. So I think this is a very, very, very effective, broad page. And notice a singular call to action, a simple call to action. There's no question what they're trying to get me to do. They want me to get started. That's it. Okay. This is a deeper page. And when we're looking at a page like this is not showing up, is it? Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, we can see the plot out the mile markers.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because it's weird in my view, it's not showing up. Anyways, this is a deep page. And this specific page on their site is geared towards product managers. So think about the needs that persona, the product manager, has. They need to align goals and assign tasks and avoid potholes with a strategy. That is a key role of a product manager. I mean, I was a product manager for over 10 years professionally. That was the goal. They build the bridge, close the gap between objectives and action, and share updates. That's a product feature wrapped in a benefit statement. Track project milestones, lay out a clear roadmap, and mark progress throughout the development process. Again, it's a feature wrapped as a benefit statement. And then update your supporters, communicate development initiatives with your team, stakeholders, and partners. So this speaks to the lower level product manager who is kind of building tasks, but it's also speaking to the chief product officer who really, this piece here, update your supporters, is really, really critical for their role. So it is a deep page, but even within the product management persona, they're able to go up and down that persona to go bigger and smaller and to flex in and out of that. And it's absolutely brilliant. They have one of these pages for dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of different roles within companies. So then you wonder, well, how do they get bought for 20 billion? Well, because they sell to a lot of different people and they're very clear with the call to action in that conversion process. Not to mention they leverage product-led growth and user psychology and all the other things that we're going to get into in a little bit. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll keep rolling. Interrupt me at any point. Okay, so the next component. So we've gotten through some of the messaging and positioning and persona side of things. Interestingly enough, a lot of conversion-specific metrics actually come down to technology and performance aspects. So the harder things, not the softer things. So there's a soft side that you have to nail, and then there's a harder side that you have to nail. And I'll walk you through what this means here. So my team and others have done a bunch of research, and we found that high-performing landing pages could quite literally, and does quite literally, save you up to 50% on paid advertising. 50% savings. And it doesn't just stop there. Having an underperforming page could cost you, and we'll go, I've got a chart and a couple slides here, could cost you 400% more. But let's not just think about this from a paid search side. Think about what's happening on the organic side. If you have a non-performant page speeds are slow, users bounce. 5% of traffic goes away for every second in slowness of your page speed. 5%. So if it takes 5 seconds for your page to do a thorough first pass, you've just lost 25% of your visitors, like that. And a lot of folks don't even really realize how big of a deal it is. So the anatomy of an amazing landing page, yes, it's all the content and the persona stuff that I talked about before. But the other things that will drive conversions are page speed. Okay, that impacts something called the quality score. Does anybody have experience with the Google quality score here? Okay, so those of you that have ever run paid ads on Google, when you run ads, you get something back from Google called a quality score. Now, there's no quality score. There's no tool that you could just point to a web page that gives you a quality score. You actually have to spend money to get this back from Google, which is kind of ridiculous because they could open it up on the organic side. However, the principles apply across paid and organic search traffic and then website visitor traffic. And the page speed is a really big deal. Basically, the faster the page speed, the higher the quality score in relation to your peers who have more, who may have slower, less performant pages. It's one of the big impacts that that algorithm will place. And by the way, Meta is the same way, and TikTok, if you're driving offsite traffic, they all work the same way. Another thing that works, not all the time, but often, are pages with explainer high value video content. We have a thought leadership product, and we put our own thought leadership content on the thought leadership page, and it drives up conversions. We've seen studies that show, on average, pages with videos can increase conversion rates by up to 82%. I've seen higher, and I've seen video be a detractor if it's not. I think the days of putting together the kind of automated robotic video are over. It really needs to be human and authentic, or really professionally done, but that can be a big driver of conversions. Homepage is not equal to your landing page. It's mind-blowing how many founders I meet who are running ads, and they're running ads to the homepage of their website. 77% of landing pages used for paid ads are the homepage, and that's not good. Why is it not good? If you're buying traffic, you want to be in that deep persona view. You don't necessarily, unless you've got a large budget or you're trying to just do brand building, if you go too broad and you drive net new traffic to your homepage, that concept of value to on a one-to-one basis diminishes the more broad you go. And so one of the first things that I'll recommend when we start to work with companies on, if our agency is working with a company on the paid search side, is, hey, I realize you've got a great homepage, but it's not going to convert at the same level that a specific landing page for the persona, like we talked about before, that deep page is going to convert by orders of magnitude. And so almost 100% of the time, what we'll recommend is build out a set of landing pages unique to the market and segment that you're going after. So for paid search, it's what keywords are being searched for to a persona that has the problem solution, and I present my value prop back to them. Right. Same with organic search. If people are finding your website, you're speaking to them as a human on a one-to-one basis, you're going to have a deeper page that's not your homepage. So the TLDR is, don't send paid traffic to your homepage. Spend the time to build landing pages and take that very, very seriously, because you'll save a lot of time and money. Fourth thing, I guess, is mobile for the win. So mobile traffic accounts for 55% of web traffic, and that's only increasing every year. And I've got some more stats on that coming up in a little bit. And then don't mince words. So roughly 20% of traffic is going to get past the headline on most websites. So you can get in the debate, like, is there how important is the top part of the page, et cetera. It's very important. It's your first opportunity to showcase value back to your audience. So it's critical that you do that really well. The chart on the upper right here is from WordStream. They're a SaaS platform. And it shows we had actually done our own research with our own customers. We had anonymized all the data, and we looked at it, and we saw the same thing. We saw a 50% decrease in spend, with quality scores getting up into the 10 range. And conversely, when we've onboarded new clients, we've seen clients, it feels like they're basically just burning money, and they'll pay 400% more for a click or for a lead than the baseline, than the Google benchmark, right? You want to be up in here. Do everything within your control to be up in here, especially if you're spending money on ads. And the other thing to note is that mobile is always the first technology read by the crawlers. So if ChatGPT and Bing are going to crawl your site, they're going to look at mobile first. They're going to index it. When Google looks at it, when other search engines look at it, they're first going to mobile, and they're doing a sweep of your mobile site. And they're saying, is there good content? Is it strong? Does it make sense? Is there a call to action? Is it fast? Is it credible? Then they move to desktop. So you always want to optimize for mobile first, even if desktop is your primary experience that your users are going to have in the wild. Always use mobile first and make sure that you get that right, because that's what the search engines are going to use all of the time they take their first pass on mobile. A little hack that you can use to understand how you're doing is to do a Google search for Google Page Speed Insights. It's a super cool little product. You just put in your website URL, and it basically runs a script against your site, and it gives you a ranking. You want to be up near 100. I've had clients come in that have a score of 8 or 9. I've had others that have a 97 or a 98. And there's not much we can do to increase that. Like, those are almost perfect pages. When you get data back that says that you've got performance issues on your page, do a deeper tech audit and review what's happening on those pages. And so, for example, if you're using WordPress as a platform or Squarespace, there might be plugins that you can use to make your pages faster loading, and you'll get better results by doing that. So use these tools, and you'll really save yourself a lot of time and money. And again, a lot of people just don't really go through this effort, but it's a really, really important effort, and it's free. Any questions so far? We'll keep rolling. Okay, so we're going to think now about the actual goal process and trying to drive conversions. And a lot of this starts with slightly higher level conversation around what is your main call to action? Right? We talked about before, just like with content and positioning, you can't be everything to everybody. And similarly, when you're trying to drive a conversion, generally a single call to action is best. So the question to ask yourself is, what is the one thing, if you can only pick one thing for your website visitors to do, what is it? One thing, choose one. Don't choose three, don't hedge. Don't say, well, I don't know. You just pick one and use that. And if it doesn't work, you can always change it. But this is really, really, really important. Single call to action is best. Keep it simple. Number 2, measure your actions. There's a concept called core metrics and a concept called proxy metrics. Core metrics are things like your actual revenue. So if you're a SaaS business, your core metric is probably MRR, ARR. If you're a consumer social product, your core metric is probably daily active users or monthly active users, right? So that's going to differ depending on your specific company. That's the core metric. That's the thing that you need. If you're going to raise money, your core metric better be darn good, right? It's going up and to the right. However, your core metric is 100% of the time going to be a lagging metric. It has to be inherently by design. It happens after something else happened. So what's the thing that happens before the core metric? It's your proxy metric. And so something like a sign up is a precursor to revenue. Yes, sometimes a sign up equals revenue, but much of the time a sign up is a precursor to a revenue, or a book a call is a precursor to a revenue, or a free trial is a precursor to revenue. Have clarity, have absolute clarity on what your actions are that lead to that core metric. And then finally, on this page, the absolute essentials that you need to be successful are a headline, probably a subheadline. You have to have social proof. You really can't have a company in a competitive space without having social proof. That could be social proof from early customers. It could be a testimonial. It could be a case study, but you need it. It could be a logo. It could be a set of logos. You have to have an absolutely crystal clear call to action. And then it really has to be easy for people to access more content. So those are some of the best practices. Now let's, again, look at a different product. This is Miro. This is one of my favorite websites. And I've done a lot of analysis on Miro from a conversion standpoint. In fact, I've got a ton of content about this. If anybody's interested, I've got a bunch of case studies and stuff on how they leverage things like triggers and user psychology to convert people. But notice what they're doing here, right? So if I go back for a second, revenue, signups, single call to action, clarity, headline, subheadline, social proof. They literally have it all here above the fold. I mean, it's just perfect. So single call to action is sign up free. This box used to not be here, by the way. So this they added probably in the last couple months. Since the last time I did a site teardown on Miro, they added this. Keep work and life separate by using your work email, right? Aspirational. Lots of trust. 50 million users. I mean, I'm basically ready to get my credit card out already, but I can just sign up for free. And all these people use them. And by the way, it shows me the product. I mean, it's very similar to Miro, right? It's in a very competitive space as Miro, but these mid-market SaaS companies in competitive markets have had to do the work to be absolutely amazing 100% of the time because it's so competitive. So use these as examples for you. You may be in a wildly different industry, but in terms of a swipe file or a model to look at to base your UX around, look at what these mid-market SaaS companies are doing, because they've got entire teams of people running experimentation to make this the best performant page they possibly can. And it generally works pretty well. But again, the simplicity here is key. Sign up free. There's not 50 things to do here. Okay. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about triggers and user psychology. By the way, these are big themes. Like each of these could be a whole hour of content. But I just want to give you a sample of some of the best hits here, because these hopefully give you some tactical things to work on when you come out of this today. So we're going to think about the types of triggers. I've found that there's 5. There might be more, and you can use a combination of these triggers to meet your goals. But there's action-based triggers. So you do something and then something else happens. There's time-based triggers, some kind of timeline. There's value-based. You get this for that. There's emotional triggers. And there's scarcity triggers. So I'd say scarcity triggers get used the most. Right? That's probably the most widely used trigger in the playbook. And I think it's actually, scarcity is one of the lazier triggers to use. I just see so much bad use of scarcity out there. Like it almost never works for me. I'll buy something based on emotion or based on value, sometimes based on time if it's real. And I'll buy on scarcity if it's really real, but like that's the one that everybody's tried to game. So I'd maybe downplay that one a little bit. Action-based. So I'll show you some examples. These are literally screenshots from different ones that I have in my inbox in different places. So top left, only one left in stock, order soon. That's scarcity. This here is actually a product. This is called Sandbox. There's a chief product officer here. We did a ton of experimentation in our mobile app, and we are the mobile app that parents and friends and family of kids going to the military would use. They would use our app to stay in touch with kids that went to boot camp, basic training, because they'd lose their phones for 8 to 12 weeks. So what are we doing here? We're saying, okay, hey, you've got 1 hour left to send your letter the next day. Colin is graduating this week. Well, that's kind of a combo. That is a real constraint, though. That is a real time-based constraint, because at 5 o'clock every day, if you didn't get your letter in, you would have missed that day's shipment in real life. There's nothing fake about it. It was authentic and it worked really well. I pulled it out here so you can see it. And we also leveraged the concept of a little bit of the concept of scarcity here, where you've got X number of tokens remaining, which was our currency equivalent. And then some social proof here. 75 people are writing a letter right now. So we had a way to pull those metrics right from our database. Now, if it's at 0, kind of doesn't look good, but we had enough volume on the product that we could leverage that. And it's a form of social proof. That's like, hey, 75 other people are actually doing the same thing that I'm going to do. This should be a pretty normal thing, right? Like I'm not doing anything weird here. Here's Miro again. Value-based. Miro is most useful when you're working with your team. Pretty good. This one right here is emotional. Okay, so what this says is, hey, we just want to let you know that you can now purchase, in this case, the Sandbox newsletter to send your loved one. It's incredibly tough being cut off from a daily news stream and information. Delivered every Thursday to your loved one, the dispatch gives them a connection to the world outside of basic training, which in the current climate is more important than ever. That's emotional. And it worked really, really, really well. And then Zapier here is this last chance scarcity. You see these all the time. These are in your inbox. They're in the ads that you see. They're in the apps that you use. They're everywhere. They're on billboards. You're surrounded by these. Pay attention to the stuff that actually resonates with you. Try to be thoughtful about the stuff that you're seeing that you actually like. You probably don't like a bunch. Make a note of those. Well, what ones actually resonate with you? And can you apply some of those to your own business? That's my ask, is for you to think about that. I think about this stuff a lot. And for different business models, you may not be able to use all of these different types of triggers and hooks. It may be just a more straightforward sale, but most of us have something here that we can dig into. And finally, there's just a couple of other things to know. Look, so much of performance and conversions happen by us doing things that we weren't sure were going to work. And so the biggest takeaway I would say is all the stuff before is important. Those are like the foundational building blocks of conversion rate optimization and building something that people want. But try to disrupt your own model, right? Almost every startup that I've seen that has gotten some traction, but really broken out, right? You can go back to a point in time where they took a really, really big swing at something. So for my current company, it meant that we had to change our business model. We still are selling to the same exact persona, but what we're selling is very, very different. And so when I look at our growth over from, depending on the month, 12 months ago to today, we're seeing anywhere from a 6 to 10x increase in revenue as a company than we did then. Again, selling to the same people, just doing different things that we can monetize in different ways. That was a big swing. That was like, we get the team together and we talk about what we have to change in our business to further monetize. You may have this. If you're a product company, you may need to think about a service. If you're a service company, you may need to think about a product. If you're a marketplace, you may need to think about the dynamics and the value at each side. But you're likely not going to find success by tweaking the button color and the font on your site. There's a famous example of it was Google tested, it was like 96 colors of blue on a button on their homepage. Sure, if you need to get like 0.001% of an increase in a conversion rate in your Google, that's probably the type of experiment that you need to do. But for you all, you may be able to build a landing page that's radically different than any other page that you've ever built. You put that in front of new eyeballs and you measure the impact against your control, which is what you've currently been doing, and you may surprise yourself. And so a lot of those big wins come from big, big, big swings. Yes, focus on the details, but take on as much risk as you're comfortable with, especially the earlier you are, so that you can find that signal faster and get in front of those users in a way that enables you to actually drive the conversion that you need to give you the traction so you can go raise money or whatever else you want to do. And so that's the end of my talk. I'd love to help you drive better conversions. We have a little bit of time. I'm happy to dig into one of your models. I do have a discount code here. So myself and team do landing page teardowns. We've got a one-off option and a monthly option here. There's a discount for Thunder. You can email me for the slides or if you've got questions, and you can check out our website at velocitygrowth.com. If you send me an email and you've got a question or you want me to look at something for you, I'll put a quick Loom video together with my thoughts. I won't do like an exhaustive deep dive, but if you want just a quick set of eyes on something, I'll provide that to you. Just send me an email. And if you want a much deeper dive, scan this code. It'll bring you to our landing page focused on our conversion rate optimization product, which is a product I service. Now we'll go from there. But I really appreciate your time and love to take any questions.
That said, while we kind of wait for questions to come in, a couple of key takeaways, Craig, and I really appreciate the time you spent kind of walking through some of the details. One of the things that we kind of chose this topic is for the reason of, ultimately traction, or as the saying goes, like sales cures all. In this case, traction cures all. So for those looking to fundraise, one of the most important things that investors look for is like, what have you proven? What have you proven in the market? Traction is a clear indication of some level of proof that you've figured something out. And a lot of the tactics that Craig has gone through today will ultimately lead to a closer to product market fit. Product market fit ultimately meaning that you build a product that customers actually want and they're buying it. And a clear indication of success there is your conversion rate. What are you converting at 1%? Or are you converting at 50%? And that's a clear indication that you are building something and articulating it in a way that a consumer or business wants to buy it. And so that's a clear indication of success that will give you insights on whether or not are you going to have a quick fundraise or a long drawn out fundraise as you kind of establish your product market fit. So a lot of the techniques that Craig has gone in today are something that you should really look to be exploring and how you can further optimize your conversion rate. And that's something that I think a lot of founders leave out in their decks and the material, especially early stage when you don't have a ton of traffic. It's not like you're going to have 100,000 visitors in your pre-sales company or anything like that. And sometimes you don't need a lot of volume. But challenge you to kind of look at the tactics that Craig discussed today to look at how you could improve your conversion rate, which ultimately leads to better product market fit, which will ultimately lead to getting more capital and raising money and so on. Emiliano, looks like you have a question. I'll let you go ahead and jump in here.
Yeah, thank you, Jason and Craig. Just wondering if we're about to launch a new product, what kind of KPI or traction should we show investors on a raise, right? Because let's say we have one already functioning product, which is stable, but we have one that's launching to market. So is it waiting list? Is it pre-orders? Or what would you recommend there if there's new products or new revenue streams coming in the future, but it's not yet precisely sales?
I'll take a pass, and then maybe Jason, you've got some ideas. I would say definitely build a wait list. Keynote with wait lists is you'll generally lose a lot of interest really quickly if you're not keeping that wait list really active and engaged. I have always looked at adjacent products from an attachment rate perspective. So, and I don't know your business, Emiliano, but if it's a natural upsell or cross sell, and I'm an investor looking at your deck, I want to see that there's capability for you to tap that audience that is currently already spending money on their credit card with you to spend more money on the credit card with you. So that attach rate is likely something that I would look at. In fact, with Sandbox, some of the examples that I showed earlier, we actually built 2 or 3 new lines of business within the company when I was there by attaching additional upsells onto the core product. So to me, that's where a lot of the growth comes from, and where I think you're going to get traction on hooking investors is showing that potential. But Jason, from an investor standpoint, how would you think about that?
Yeah, so a couple things to point out is one thing that stands out negatively to me as an investor. It's like 10,000 people on the waiting list. It's like, well, is that good? Is that a lot? Is that not a lot? What helps a lot is showing the trajectory or the growth rate of any kind of pre-sales traction. So again, like the fact that maybe you did some paid ads to kind of drive in some awareness. Maybe you spent $500 and you got 100 visitors, 500 visitors, $1 per visitor. How many of those did you convert? What was the conversion cost to cost per conversion? And what's the velocity? Is that something that's steadily growing over time? Are you doing organically? Are you doing it through paid? What an investor wants to see is like, what have you proven? What risk have you taken off the table before you've gone to market? It's one thing to say you did customer surveys, interviews, that's always helpful, but really an investor wants to see momentum. Momentum encourages an investor to act faster. If you show like you had 10 visitors in your first month or 10 users, customers, signups, whatever the KPI is, and then you instantly go to 100, and then you're like 300, and then you're at 500, and you start seeing this escalating growth. Like, oh, you figured something out. Now they're going to look at like, okay, you're in the right market. Is the market big enough? How much room do you have to grow? You struck a chord with your audience, and you found your audience. And that's what a lot of early stage kind of pre-seed seed investors are looking for is, have you found an audience that your message or product resonates with to convert at a higher than average rate? And that's not the only thing that matters, but it's a very good sign that you're figuring something out and you're de-risking the investment for the investor.
Amazing. Thank you. That's very helpful. Just reframing it. So momentum and growth, regardless of the KPI, just showing that we're de-risking that new business proposition.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
Hi. So first of all, thank you so much, Jason, for hosting this. And Craig, this was super awesome and super helpful. Craig, my question is specifically for you, I guess, about landing pages and website pages and all of that kind of stuff. So you mentioned several times that having like a single call to action and like minimal language that's not trying to, like, your audience isn't everybody, obviously. It's hard to, you know, grab everybody. You can't do that. However, so we're an ed tech platform. So we kind of look at schools, we look at educators, we look at parents, we look at students. Like, there's a lot of different audiences there. What is your opinion on having a landing page that, you know, has a button or some type of drop down or something like that, where you're quickly filtering through who your visitors are, and then they're shown a website that has language that specifically caters to them? Or do you think that that landing page is a roadblock for the audiences initially, if that makes any sense?
It's a great question. I mean, I would say generally your users will tolerate some level of friction for a personalized experience, first of all. And so if that means that you have a, you know, for section and it's like a drop down and it's like for educators, for parents, whatever it is, yes, that's a tiny bit of friction. So they don't get what they need exactly on that first experience, if that's where the traffic is going to, but they get all the information that they need for the context of what value they get from you based on who they are. So I'm a parent, right? So if your solution is for me, I want to see, well, how does it benefit me? How does it benefit my kids? What is the value? All that, which is completely different if I'm a teacher and I want, you know, maybe you're selling software into me. So yes, the second thing I would look at though is, how do you minimize the risk of too many people getting lost by landing on that homepage? So then it comes down to, well, what are your traffic sources and how are people finding you? If you're buying ads, you can target against the parent, basically, right? So you can build the right sets of keywords to find the audience that is trying to find your solution. It's not always this simple, and you just directly bring them to that landing page. And then you skip that first step. But just like with the example with Figma, your homepage likely has to be a vehicle to let those multiple personas that are very different self-select into the right section. And it's hard to figure that out, right? Because your first few passes at your homepage, you're just likely not going to nail it. You need to talk to each of those personas and understand what the collective value and benefit you bring to the table are, and then put those on the website. And this took me a really long time to figure out. So, you know, just spend some time with it, but hopefully that answers your question. But the answer is yes, you want to put up a little bit of friction if needed to get them into the right place so that you can really speak to that well-defined persona, because it sounds like you've got a well-defined persona who's your buyer or your user.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah, the friction is just what I'm having trouble with, and not knowing if, you know, like you were saying, if an audience will hurdle those hurdles or not. But that's helpful. Thank you so much.
And I would find either a competitor or an adjacent company that you think caters to the same type of multiple personas and see how they do it. And look, you can even research what they've done for paid ads, and you can go to Facebook's ad library and you can see what Facebook ads they've run, and you can go to their website and do a quick audit. Become a student of this stuff. Like, I know everything about my competitive landscape. First, when we were an ed tech company and just when we were doing training, I knew everything about all of those companies. And now as like a kind of an agency consultancy side, I know all about the same companies that are serving the same startups that we're selling to, and trying to find those points where we can really differentiate ourselves from all the rest. So you'll likely want to do the same sets of actions.
Awesome. That's helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Any other questions with the last couple of remaining minutes? Anyone want to jump in? Well, something just kind of to leave you with, and kind of tying into that last question, really knowing the audience and how to articulate your message, and something that I think a lot of founders neglect, and something that we're going through here at Thunder as you make changes and as you evolve and adapt to new understandings, new learnings, new improvements to your product, whatever it may be, your website can often get neglected. And certain updates or strategies might not be updated on the website to further optimize your growth or sales or whatever it might be. And so I just kind of always challenge founders to depending on your stage, resources and whatnot, but like never go more than like 3 months without doing a deep dive on your entire kind of top of funnel and bottom funnel experience. And that has a lot to do with your website, your marketing clutter and materials. Sometimes you just need to go through and refresh everything. There could be certain verbiage that is outdated. There could be certain, maybe you added something to one of your offerings that's not clearly stated into your website. And those can make big improvements because as you're in your sales process, like we're experiencing this, we offer extensive more value in Thunder than what we really articulate in our website. And that's something that we're learning as we get people that, take a leap of faith, upgrade on Thunder, have a coaching session with me. And when we go through those coaching sessions, we unlock so much more than they had originally anticipated. And that's something that I see often for a lot of founders, obviously myself included, is like, oh, wow, I should probably articulate these things better and upfront to our customers and prospective customers to maximize this potential. Otherwise, I'm just leaving money and money on the table. I'm leaving prospective customers on the table and not converting as high as I potentially could because I'm leaving certain information out. So that's one of my challenges to all of founders, is to kind of reflect every 3 months or so, I think is enough time on your content, your marketing collateral website, to make sure it's accurately representative of your current offering, because you just change too much as an early stage startup to let things go stale. And also it's good to just keep things fresh, makes people look like you're making updates, that you're alive, that you're doing well, and that you're taking the time to keep things up to date. So with that said, I'll open it up one more chance for any questions. Going once, going twice. Well, that said, as a reminder, this is recorded. It will be published and referenced on our website at a later date. Also, if you guys are not familiar with kind of our offering at Thunder, our core offering today is basically unlocking your AI generated list of investors. We pair you up against 3,500 VCs in our network. We score you against all of those and try to determine which of all 3,500 investors are the ones actually worth your time pursuing and investing the time and resources to do a proper investor outreach campaign. If you have any questions about specifically what that offering involves, obviously a lot of it's on our website, but clearly I haven't done all the work I need to inform you of everything that's on there. But we have our Slack community. If you're not already a part of that, you can message me directly on that Slack community. You can message in the groups. I just did a bunch of deck roasts this morning. Publish those. You can just submit your decks, and as I get them, I'll go through and just roast them and kind of give you guys feedback on what you can do to improve. Just that's free. Be in the community, be engaged, and that's my return of value. And there's a bunch of other things to kind of jump into. We're working on new templates to offer to our premium access for their investor outreach and data room preparation, things of that sort. So by all means, don't hesitate to reach out. Don't be a stranger. Hopefully you found value in today's offering, and look forward to getting this recording out in the next couple of days. Also, we have our next event next Thursday, talking about how you can leverage PR for both customer acquisition and fundraising, from Chakoti over at Moonshot PR. Amazing guy, really productizing PR strategies for early stage startups to leverage. So hopefully you'll be able to join us for that one next week. And with that, I'll kind of wrap up. You're welcome to hop off. Thanks everyone for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Craig, you still there?